Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So let's talk about karma. Real karma. Not the cute Pinterest quote kind, not the good vibes only Instagram caption karma. I'm talking about the kind of karma that doesn't knock. It lets itself in, sits on your designer sofa, and starts reading your private business out loud to the press. Because according to reports, Brooklyn Beckham has allegedly sent an extraordinary legal notice to his own parents, yes, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, warning them to only contact him through lawyers. Lawyers. Not WhatsApp, not a family group chat, not, hey mom, can we talk? No. Solicitors, legal counsel, paperwork, invoices, billable hours. That is not a disagreement. That is not family tension. That is a total relationship shutdown. And suddenly, oh, suddenly, the Beckham brand is in crisis mode. Now, before anyone pretends this came out of nowhere, let's rewind. Because this story didn't start with Brooklyn. It didn't start with Nicola. It didn't even start with a wedding feud. It started years ago, back when the British press needed sacrificial lambs and the Sussexes were served up on a silver platter. Let's be very honest here. The Beckhams were not innocent bystanders in the UK media ecosystem. They were participants. Cozy participants, smiling participants, the kind who knew exactly how the game worked and played it beautifully until the game turned on them. Funny how that happens. For years, Harry and Meghan were dragged, dissected, humiliated, accused, and psychologically terrorized in public. And while that was happening, others stayed silent, others benefited, others leaked selectively, others kept their hands clean while the Sussexes were set on fire. And now? Now the fire has changed addresses. Let's talk about the irony for a second. When Harry and Meghan set boundaries, they were called heartless. When Harry cut off access, he was called cruel. When Meghan said no more, she was called manipulative. When they protected their mental health, they were mocked, ridiculed, and told to just get on with it. But now, Brooklyn Beckham allegedly does the same thing, legal boundaries, restricted access, distance, and suddenly the narrative is tragic, sad, complex, heartbreaking. Same behavior, different surname, different media tone. Because let's be clear, if Harry had sent a legal notice telling Charles to contact him through lawyers, the British press would still be foaming at the mouth today. But Brooklyn does it, and suddenly everyone is whispering gently like they're in a hospital corridor. Please. Now let's talk about image control, because the Beckhams are obsessed with it. This is a family that has spent decades curating perfection, carefully staged photos, carefully timed interviews, carefully managed narratives, every scandal smoothed over, every rough edge polished. And now they've lost control, because once legal letters enter the chat, the illusion cracks. Once only contact me via lawyers leaks, the public sees what's really going on, and no amount of fashion shows, football legacy, or Spice Girl nostalgia can hide that. This is what happens when private dysfunction meets public branding. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. This is exactly what Harry warned about. The coldness, the transactional relationships, the emotional distance disguised as tradition and expectations, the control masked as family values. Sound familiar? Harry didn't just leave an institution, he escaped a system that turns relationships into leverage. And the Beckhams are now tasting a spoonful of that same poison. Let's also address the elephant in the room. The British press does not just find stories. Stories are fed, strategically, selectively, with intent. And for years, Harry and Meghan were the easiest targets, the safest leaks, the most profitable punching bags. And others, yes, including celebrity families desperate to stay in favor, benefited from that arrangement. And now the tables have turned. The press is circling the Beckhams like sharks who smell vulnerability. And suddenly, it's not so fun being on the receiving end, is it? No palace protection, no royal rota rules, no hands-off agreement. Just raw exposure. And notice how fast the tone shifted. One minute, the Beckhams are untouchable icons. The next minute, headlines are screaming family at war, legal notices, estrangement, rift. Welcome to the same media machine you helped keep alive. And let's not pretend this is just about Brooklyn being dramatic. Sending a legal letter to your parents is a last resort. People don't do that for fun. People do that when boundaries have been ignored repeatedly. Which brings us back once again to Meghan. Because when Meghan enforced boundaries, she was accused of splitting families. When Brooklyn enforces boundaries, he's protecting his peace. Spot the hypocrisy? I'll wait. The funniest and saddest part of all of this is the Beckhams now want privacy. Privacy. After years of benefiting from public exposure, after years of strategic leaking, after years of playing both sides of the media fence, now suddenly it's, please respect the family's private matter. Oh, is that how that works now? Harry and Meghan begged for privacy while being hunted. The Beckhams demand privacy once the spotlight turns on them. Karma doesn't rush. Karma waits, and when it shows up, it brings receipts. And let's be real, this is not about choosing sides in a family argument. It's about accountability. It's about watching the same media cruelty cycle repeat, just with different victims. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The Beckhams are not villains, but they are not victims either. They played the game, they benefited from the system, and now they're learning what happens when that system stops protecting you. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan, thriving, living, building, unbothered. No legal letters leaked, no public meltdowns, no controlled chaos. Just peace. The very thing they were mocked for choosing. So yes, this story is dramatic. Yes, it's messy. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But it's also poetic. Because the same press that once sharpened knives for the Sussexes is now sharpening them for the Beckhams. And suddenly, everyone understands how brutal it feels. Funny how empathy shows up once it's personal. So let this be a lesson. You don't get to feed the beast and then cry when it bites you. You don't get to stay silent while others are destroyed and then ask for sympathy later. And you definitely don't get to pretend you didn't know how this system works. Karma didn't miss the address. It just arrived late with legal paperwork. And on that note, Harry and Meghan tried to warn you.